The sleep aid industry is a $100 billion empire, yet we are the most exhausted generation in history. We buy smart mattresses and white noise machines, yet we wake up with brain fog and aching joints. But look at this. A 95-year-old veteran of the Second World War spent months sleeping in frozen foxholes, yet he never had a restless night in his life. His secret? Item number 3 on this list. It costs 15 cents, it's a waste product from the spice cabinet, and it resets your nervous system in minutes. Today, as a doctor, I'm revealing the 7 forgotten rest anchors that the industry wants you to ignore. Let's look at the pot. Staple 1. The magnesium soak, the muscle decompressor. In the industrial mining towns of the 1920s, workers spent 12 hours a day in cramped, high-stress environments. Their muscles were constantly locked in a state of tetany, or chronic tension. They didn't have massage guns or expensive physical therapy. They had the magnesium soak. They would add a handful of Epsom salts, which were pennies at the general store, to a bucket of hot water and soak their feet before bed. As a doctor, I see a magnesium epidemic today. Stress literally burns through your magnesium stores. Without magnesium, your muscles cannot relax, and your heart rate stays elevated throughout the night. By soaking their feet, these workers were performing a transdermal infusion. The magnesium was absorbed directly into the bloodstream, bypassing the digestive tract and immediately lowering their cortisol levels. The rest anchor generation didn't have restless leg syndrome because their cellular magnesium was always topped off. This 10-cent ritual allowed a man who had worked 14 hours of manual labor to fall into a deep, regenerative sleep in minutes. It is a biological reset button that we have traded for synthetic melatonin pills that disrupt our natural hormonal balance. This is the first rule of survival rest. You cannot sleep until the body stops fighting the day. In the unheated bedrooms of the 19th century, there was a specific survival habit: the cold water dip. Before climbing into a pile of wool blankets, workers would dip their feet in cold water and then rub them vigorously with a coarse towel until they glowed red. To a doctor, this is thermoregulatory engineering. Your brain needs your core body temperature to drop by exactly 1 degree Celsius to trigger the onset of deep sleep. By cooling the extremities and then stimulating blood flow to the surface of the skin, our ancestors were forcing their core heat to dissipate. The rest anchor generation didn't have climate-controlled rooms. They used this 0-cent habit to trick their hypothalamus into sleep mode. We live in houses that are too warm, trapped in a thermal luxury that prevents our brains from ever entering the deepest stages of REM sleep. This 5-minute ritual is more effective at inducing sleep than any cooling gel pillow. It is a lesson in using the body's own radiator to shut down the internal engine. Staple 3. The nutmeg and milk sedative, the GABA bridge. This is the secret of the 95-year-old veteran. In the 1940s, during the hardest nights of the war, mothers would make a sleep cup, warm, raw milk with a tiny pinch of freshly grated nutmeg. Nutmeg was expensive in large amounts, but a single seed lasted for months. As a doctor, I look at nutmeg and I see myristicin, a natural compound that, in tiny doses, acts as a mild sedative by interacting with the GABA receptors in the brain. GABA is the brakes of the nervous system. When your GABA is low, your mind races. The rest anchor generation didn't have anti-anxiety medication. They had the GABA bridge. The warm milk provided the L-tryptophan and the fats needed for the myristicin to cross the blood-brain barrier. One veteran told me this cup was the only thing that allowed him to sleep while the sirens were wailing. At 15 cents a serving, it is a biological off-switch for a racing mind. It is the reason why a generation that faced the collapse of civilization could still find peace in the dark, while we struggle to sleep in total safety. Staple 4. The total darkness mask, the pineal shield. In the crowded tenements of the 1930s, privacy was non-existent and streetlights were beginning to pollute the night. The survivors used a forgotten shield, a simple strip of dark wool, or even a piece of charcoal-rubbed cloth tied over the eyes. Modern science now calls this melatonin preservation. Even a tiny amount of blue light from a street lamp or a modern digital clock can shut down your pineal gland's production of melatonin. Melatonin isn't just a sleep hormone. It is the most powerful brain antioxidant we possess. It cleanses the metabolic waste from your neurons while you sleep. The rest anchor generation didn't have blackout curtains. They used this 2-cent shield to ensure their brains were bathed in melatonin for 8 hours. This is why they didn't have the brain fog and cognitive decline we see today. They were performing nightly neurosurgery on themselves, protected by a simple piece of cloth. It is a reminder that the brain requires the true dark to heal the damage of the true day. Staple 5. The raw honey. Teaspoon. The glycogen buffer. In the rural farming communities, there was a specific habit for those who woke up at 3 a.m. A single teaspoon of raw, dark honey before bed. They called it the soul's anchor. To a doctor, this is liver glycogen management. Your brain consumes a massive amount of energy while you sleep. If your liver runs out of glycogen, its stored fuel, in the middle of the night, your brain panics. It triggers a cortisol spike to wake you up and find food. This is the primary reason why modern people wake up at 3 a.m. with a racing heart. The rest anchor generation provided their liver with a time-release fuel. Raw honey contains the perfect 1.1 ratio of fructose and glucose. The fructose stays in the liver to keep the brain fed, while the glucose stays in the blood. This 10-cent habit prevents the midnight cortisol spike. One 91-year-old woman told me she never had a broken night in 70 years because of her honey jar. She was maintaining her metabolic peace, while the rest of the world was waking up in a state of hormonal emergency. In the industrial cities, the air was thick with soot and coal smoke. To breathe clearly at night, people used a vapor bowl, a bowl of steaming water with a few drops of pine resin or eucalyptus leaves placed under the bed or on the nightstand. As a doctor, I see the oxygenation secret here. Most sleep quality issues are actually oxygenation issues. If your nasal passages are slightly inflamed or congested, your brain stays in a state of microsuffocation, preventing you from entering deep sleep. The rest anchor generation use these natural bronchodilators to keep their airways open. They were ensuring a maximum flow of oxygen to the prefrontal cortex during the night. This 5-cent ritual is more effective than any nasal strip or expensive air purifier. It is a lesson in respiratory resilience. By washing the air with herbal steam, they kept their internal environment oxygen-rich, allowing for total cellular regeneration. Finally, we have the heavy blanket. Before the age of lightweight synthetic duvets, blankets were made of heavy, dense wool or even filled with grain or sand. They were heavy, sometimes weighing 10 or 15 pounds. To a doctor, this is deep pressure stimulation. When you apply even pressure to the large surface area of the body, it triggers the vagus nerve to move from the sympathetic, stress state to the parasympathetic, rest state. It tells the nervous system that the body is safe and grounded. The rest anchor generation didn't have weighted blankets that cost $200. They had the heavy wool of their ancestors. This pressure lowered their heart rate and silenced the fight or flight response. I spoke with a retired farmer who said he couldn't sleep under a light blanket. He felt unanchored. He was right. He was using a 0-cent physical law to force his nervous system into a state of total surrender. It is the final lesson of survival. Peace is not a feeling. It is a physical state that you must anchor into the body. The $100 billion sleep industry doesn't want you to look at a pinch of salt, a spoonful of honey, or a heavy wool blanket for your rest. There is no profit margin in a cold foot dip or a strip of cloth over your eyes. They want you to believe that your exhaustion is a medical mystery, that only their expensive synthetic solutions can manage. But the 95-year-old veteran and the 91-year-old grandmother prove them wrong. They show us that the human nervous system is not fragile. It is a biological engine that requires specific, cheap, and primitive anchors to recharge. They survived world wars and economic collapses, not because they were lucky, but because they knew how to force their bodies into a state of iron rest, using the simplest tools available. My challenge to you is simple. This week, don't buy a gadget. Try the honey anchor. Use the dark shield. Soak your feet in magnesium salt. Sit at your table, set a place for yourself, and eat it slowly. Or in this case, prepare your rest slowly. Feel the cortisol dropping. Feel the GABA rising. Feel the connection to the generations of humans who stood strong and woke up recharged because they knew how to extract iron rest from simplicity. Your energy is not a product. It is a heritage. These 7 forgotten rest anchors are the protocol of the most resilient, high-energy humans to ever walk the earth. If this video spoke to the truth you've been looking for, subscribe to the channel. We are tired of the sick care system, and we are getting back to the roots. Share in the comments. Which rest anchor did your family use to stay strong? Because at Vaxalis, we believe the best pillow is a clear mind and a grounded body. I'm the doctor, and I'll see you at the next pot. Thanks for watching.